Greetings everyone, Bram here with another project which I'm working on. This was a rather simple project for a neighbor of mine. She asked to have a table where she could place her Winerack to get it lifted a little bit up on the ground. I told her that I can and I will be building it for her. So she wanted to use not an expensive material, so that's why I'm using pine here. I went ahead to my local lumberyard and bought a 6 feet by 8. I think it was the width of an 8 by 8 by 4 by 6 by 8 feet pine. I started cutting into pieces, and I wanted to have the joinery with the dominoes. So all the joineries which I used here were dominoes, except the top, which I did not use domino. I just went ahead and glued it up, simple glue. I think it works pretty well, being at a small surface area and not bearing a lot of load. Since I wanted to make it a little bit of, give it a little bit of profile, so I went ahead and used the tapers for the legs. I do not have like miter saw station where you have a stop block, so I came up with the idea of putting a stop block behind my cut, lock it down, and then start cutting the rest of the stock. And so here you see me doing that. I would not be talking a lot over this video because I went ahead and had the microphone on while I was working. I thought this would just be more of a on action and explaining what I'm doing. So I invite you to just go ahead, watch me build what I did, and enjoy the rest of the video. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. So here is the last piece of this dry fitting. So I escaped all this, all the runners and pieces. So I got to this point now. It's the last piece. This is, I'm simply going to dry fit and see if everything lines up and it's square. So all the dominoes I have adjusted. Dominoes is pretty forgiving. I don't need to be that precise to make it work. So I like it very much. And yeah, as you can see, everything is lining up. So I'm tapping it to place. Again, this is dry fitting, and I'm trying to see how the table is going to look like. Okay. I'm going to see if I can find any defect, any misalignment, so I can fix. And yeah. So far so good, even though it's not glued up and clamped, but standing pretty nice. I mean, nothing to scream about that I cannot fix. So far, so good, as you can see. And I have tapered legs for the front. This is the front of the table. This is going to be a table where I think that the lady is going to put its like her wine rack on top of this. So this is the top, again, solid pine, which I will be cutting to length and gluing it up with a Z-clip. So, well, let's continue. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to be cutting the top to the proper length, and since I do not have a proper miter saw stop, this is how I overcome that problem. I'm gonna cut, make it tight, and I will make the stop with this clamp so that for my next cut it will butt up to the stop, and it works okay, it works pretty fine. So this is what I'm going to be doing. So my first cut is done, stop is locked. Yeah, pretty good. So I'm trying to just shave off just a hair off the width the tops, so that I can then make them ready for gluing up. And actually, since I don't have a joiner, I'm going to show you how I make it as much as gap free as I possibly can without the joiner. So let's do it. Okay, after making the width, just going running it through the blades and making it straight. Now I'll flip the boards to the opposite grain as much as I can. So if the grain is this side, the next will be upward, and vice versa. So I'll try to flip them. Yeah, this upward and then downward, then again, as much as I possibly can. Yeah, so down, up, down, up. So here's the trick, which I learned it from woodworkers online, fellow woodworkers online, and it works pretty nice though. So you place a straight edge by the fence, and try to butt your piece to the straight edge, and moving the straight edge, not the piece. So it works pretty well. So yeah, let's do it. Pretty darn good. And the rest will be taken care of by the clamp force. But it's pretty nice, really. So I'm going to do the rest and continuing on. Okay, so all the jointing is done. I'm pretty happy with the result. It's pretty seamless, so I'm going to glue it up and clamp it in. I decided not to use any dominoes or any joint per se. This piece is small enough, has got lots of area to handle the weight, and it's not going to move. With long boards, always there's a tendency when you clamp it, it is going to bend. That, to my experience, is inevitable, even though it's a limited experience. But it tends to warp and bend, and this is how I try to clamp it down by attaching two pieces on either side and clamping it straight. I think that does the trick. By looking through the blade of this clamp, I see that everything is touching. Yeah, I can see everything is touching the blade. So I'm assuming that 99% is going to be flat, and the rest I can take care of the sanding. So yeah, I'm gonna just let it dry up till morning, and we'll come back to it to cut the side. I think either side needs to be adjusted, and then lengthwise I need to also cut it to the exact piece, which is 20 inches. I think it's 20-inch length, and width is 18. Okay, we'll come back to it when it's dried up. The top is dried up. I just unclamped it, and I'm going to be cutting the zip clip over here, a small cut to receive the Z-clip, and I'm gonna glue up all the legs and the carcass. Let it dry up, and we'll go to sanding and getting the top permanently screwed in with this Z-clamp, and I'm gonna just take the next step. So it's time to attach the top to the body, to the whole carcass. So I have a stock piece of 3/4. It made it easy for me to eliminate all the measurements so that I could have it equally on on four sides. I simply am going to line it up with this 3/4 stock, which is a leftover of the top, and see if it fits. I'll go around to the bottom and the stocks are lined up. All right, I'm starting to sand. Well, I already sanded it multiple times. Went from 120 to 320. It's very soft now, slicky and very smooth. I'm starting to stain it. I want to coat it once or twice to see how dark it is, because the client was asking to make a dark stain, like a walnut. And this one is actually, I think my previous project was also walnut, dark walnut. Anyway, I had it on this piece. I want to coat one or two and ask the client if she wants it darker, and then finally go with the protection. I'm using polyurethane, Verathane, satin. So after that, I'll be applying multiple coats of this with the brush. I had success last time. It's milky. Initially, when you apply it, you don't see the effect, and you have to wait for a couple of minutes, like 10-20 minutes, to see how it turns out. And it does turn out pretty good. And plus, it doesn't smell that oily smell. It doesn't, because it's water-based. So I'm going to start staining. So now it's time to apply polyurethane. As I said, I'm going to use Verathane. This is water-based poly, and I'm going to be using brush and applying it multiple coats. I'm starting it now. They say stir it well, don't shake it, so everything should get even when you're stirring it. And I remember I had a small piece to stir, and I seem not to find it. Let me go grab it. Well, I couldn't find the stick, so I'm using this old screwdriver to stir it. As I said, it's kind of pinkish color and milk. You see, it's milky. But once it's dried up, interestingly enough, no brush stroke will remain, so you see a flat surface, and it shines and protects. So I'm doing it while pouring it into a small tote or cup that I have, and start applying. Just keeping the door closed. And since this being water-based, it really is easy to wipe off and brush off, actually, to wash off. So that makes it even more attractive to me. And yeah, I'm using this brush to start brushing. So here, as I was saying, it's kind of a milky, as if, and it turned out, I don't know, like bluish. But I know it's going to, when it dries up, which it dries pretty quick, it's going to clear out. I know that, but maybe it's the fact that I've used the stain is not water-based. Maybe that's why. But it's interesting to me that it turns bluish, kind of a color when I'm applying it. And as I am, I see top here when it dries, it clears out. So I'm going to keep brushing it off till the end, and we'll see how it turns out when it's done. Okay, I went ahead and applied a couple of coats of poly, waited for dry up, and this is the next morning. And when I delivered it, it looked like this one. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next.